there's no reason to think that that's true.
All right, do you think if there's some way that my brain could be transplanted into another human body, do you think I'd still be here as the brain itself?
If it were possible to transplant your brain into another body and you got the whole brain, do I think that that your personality and who you are would transfer with your brain? Yes.
All right, yeah, that's basically all my question. I'm sorry, it's
Sure.
sort of confusing. Yeah.
Now, I don't know that that's true. It may be the case, first of all, it may be the case that it's impossible.
Yeah.
You're talking about lots, and I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, but thanks a lot for the call. You're talking about lots and lots of connections that may forever be beyond our ability to do properly. It may also be the case that simply moving a brain and trying to make those new connections fundamentally changes what's in that brain. And it'd be like my eyes and Jen's eyes are similar. I mean, on an evolutionary scale, they're identical. On an individual scale, they're similar. If we were to wire my brain up just to her optic nerve so that I would be seeing through her eyes, something, I don't know, can they do eye transplant? I don't think they've completed an eye transplant yet. But if we were to do that and wire it up, what input would my brain be receiving? It wouldn't be receiving exactly the same information that it would get from my eyes, because her eyes are slightly different. And so the information is going to be slightly different. My brain's going to process it slightly different, and that's going to begin to change who I am. We are all changing all the time. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not even made of the same stuff. And what is it, 7 years until every atom in your body's been replaced? And yet I am still me. And that's because the definition of what is me changes as I change. And that's as close as we can come to I think, addressing that.
But we've talked about this theory of mind thing before, and it's really interesting because we've pointed out on the show before that some autistic individuals never develop a theory of mind. So they never have this sense of self or... The
intentional stance, the ability to discern what somebody, that there's another mind.
Yeah, I would say actually not this sense of self. They don't develop the sense of being able to understand other people as intentional agents. So, and that's a critical social mechanism that we need in order to basically get along as social animals. So that actually addresses, some of the issues they have with social interactions. And that's not certainly true of all autistic individuals, but it's one of the things that's been identified. And it's not, this theory of mind is not a product of intelligence, because if you look at kids with Down syndrome, they do develop a theory of mind, and they develop it on the same timeline as any other kid. So it's not a product of intelligence. And the other thing is you can lose your theory of mind. So if you develop Alzheimer's, for example, Alzheimer's patients typically do lose a sense of correctly interpreting other people's intentions and even the sense of themselves. So, yeah.
So Michael from California has managed to call back, and we'll get to him in just a second. I wanted to go ahead and get the announcements out of the way that I keep forgetting to repeat, and that is that after the show's over, here in about 35 minutes, everybody involved in the show gets together for dinner at Threadgill's at 301 West Riverside Drive. We'll be there around 6:30 p.m. Don't be embarrassed in the slightest. You can walk right up to the nice people at the front counter and say, I'm here to meet up with the godless heathens, those reckless atheists who are here every Sunday. And she'll say, oh yeah, they're right back there. They know us. We have a really good relationship with that restaurant, and glad to be back. We had to take some time off while we were doing the show from my place. So Michael, are you back?
Yeah.
I'm sorry you got cut off.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. All right, how far did I get? What was I saying when I got cut off? I'm not sure right when I got cut off.
Well, you were talking about this bill, and then after you got cut off, we continued because we talked about this on yesterday's Nonprofits in a lot more detail.
Okay, well, I just wanted to bring up American evangelical support for the bill.
Yeah.
With Rick Warren, the famous evangelical author.
Rick Warren does not support the bill.
He doesn't?
No, Rick Warren came out and said that he is strongly opposed to the bill. But what he said was, and it's stupid, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, "I strongly oppose this bill, but gay people are still abominations that deserve to die." He didn't say it like that. What he said was, "We cannot deny the biblical position with regard to homosexuality, but I strongly oppose this bill." I mean,
That's probably like a political opposition rather than an ideological one, I think.
Yeah, it was one of the sleaziest moves I've ever seen. And it was, when I heard that he strongly opposed that bill, I was like, wow, finally Rick Warren's done something that I agree with, that I can appreciate. And then he had to go and taint it with this, but we all know that gays are still evil, and this is the guy who was at the inauguration, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there are other, the Pray Out the Gay movement with like Richard Cohen, those guys who claim to have fixed gay people here in America. He supports this bill, and I'm just wondering, should these organizations still have tax-exempt status? They're supporting foreign legislation. It's horrible.
Actually, I was going to correct you on something. Cohen says that he doesn't support the bill, even though his book was used as the basis for a lot of the arguments in favor of this bill. He came out and said that he doesn't support something like that, that he promotes this reparative therapy, which is garbage. So he does not support the bill, even though his book was used heavily by the people who wrote the bill.
Wow, I seem to be guilty of slander against those two people. I apologize to them.
That's all right. They're both asshats.
Yeah, they really are asshats. And I mean, Rachel Maddow hammered Cohen on her show.
I bet he enjoyed that.
Yeah, well. Anyway, she was pointing out that he quoted some stuff in his book that came. It was lifted almost verbatim from the work of Paul Cameron, who is. He's very dishonest. He's not a legitimate researcher. He's the guy that he concluded that gay men were more likely to die young because he read some obituaries, and he was collecting. And that was how he sampled a population. Was he would read obituaries and he would pluck out all the gay people and compare those with the numbers of non-gay people. But he was using papers in like West Hollywood and stuff where there was a high percentage of gay men who at the time he did this survey were dying from AIDS. So it was a horrible sampling methodology. He's been kicked out of every professional association that he was a member of. So his work was thoroughly discredited, and Cohen quotes him in the book as if he's a legitimate source.
And to address your other question real quick, and then I'm going to get on to some other callers. You asked, should they be tax exempt considering they're supporting and giving opinions on foreign legislation? First of all, I don't think they should be tax exempt at all. But given that they are, their position on foreign legislation is completely irrelevant. They're not taxed by those foreign governments. There's nothing that says they can't speak out. And the other issue with regard to the tax exempt thing is that tax exempt nonprofit organizations are allowed to speak out with regard to legislation. They're just not allowed to endorse parties or individuals. Right. So I can speak out against whatever legislation I want to, but I can't say vote for Governor Goodhair or something like that.
All right, I see.
So thanks a lot, Michael. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling back.